This episode of the Hunt Stealth podcast is brought to you by ReadyWise Outdoor. When you're chasing adventure, you need energy you can count on. ReadyWise Pro Meals are packed with over 30 grams of protein and 500 plus calories per serving to keep you energized no matter the terrain. From the protein-packed breakfast skillet to the Thai coconut cashew curry, these lightweight, freeze-dried meals are ready in minutes. Made in the USA, ReadyWise is built for hunters and explorers just like you. Visit ReadyWiseOutdoor.com and use promo code RYAN20 to save 20% off your next order. Elevate your next adventure with blue coolers from Cata Sports, designed to keep your food and drinks ice cold no matter where the journey takes you. With top-tier insulation, rugged durability, and built-in wheels for easy transport, these coolers are the ultimate sidekick for all of your outdoor adventures. Best of all, they deliver unbeatable performance at a price that won't break the bank. Head on over to catasports.com and use promo code RYAN10 to save 10% off your order.
You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffens, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Welcome to the Hunt Stealth Podcast. We finally have been able to connect with Sam Wieber, who hails from the great state of Wyoming. Sam and I have been trying to do this podcast, and I had some construction that was going on a couple weeks ago, and we kept having generators and all sorts of fun stuff going off in the background. We decided we'd try and do it another time. And then I got hit with the stinking virus that put me flat on my back for about 5 days. So, Sam, thank you for being patient and gracious enough to join us back here on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I'm glad it worked out, and glad you're feeling better. And I'm just happy to be here. So thanks for having me, man. Love what you're doing. I love the humble approach, and I'm excited to continue to follow along. So
awesome. Well, hey, glad you're with us here. I appreciate the kind words. We're super excited with where things are going with the podcast, and it just seems like we're continuing to gain momentum, and it's from having great guests on like yourself that we're able to move this thing forward. So again, grateful to have you here. Sam, tell me a little bit, where I'd like to start maybe is just tell me a little bit about where you got into hunting and how that all started.
Yeah, man. So I actually grew up in Central Oregon, and my parents were not really hunters at all. Both my parents were collegiate athletes, not like crazy elite level, but both collegiate athletes. They're teachers and coaches in public schools still today. And so like I grew up in a sports family, man. And occasionally my dad and I we'd maybe go on like a pheasant hunt. But dude, I never grew up hunting at all, hardly at all. And it was just all about basketball, man. And it wasn't, I mean, I had a love for the outdoors. My dad taught me how to fly fish and loved the outdoors. We'd go hiking, but never really even thought about hunting. I thought
like big game animals, anything like that?
No, never. And I thought I belonged in the city because like, which is crazy to say now, but because I just thought, man, that's like where the basketball scene is. Like I grew up in a town of like 1,100 people, and I would travel and play AAU basketball in the city. And then I'd come home and I'd be like, you guys don't even know what sports are. And so I thought I'd be in the city, man. And long story short, when I graduated high school and kind of did a little bit of college basketball, and that kind of fell through, I got cut from the team. And that's when my life really changed. I started falling in love with the Lord. And I got into some Christian ministry, and I went to Pittsburgh for 1 year, the concrete jungle. And when I came back, there was something in me, Ryan, that like just wanted to be outside. It was like, I felt like claustrophobic. And when I got home, it was like, man, like I need to be outside. And there was a guy who I really looked up to who was a super accomplished bow hunter. and he's just a manly man. And so I thought, like, I was like seeing what he was doing, and I got this like seed planted in my brain, like, man, wouldn't it be the manliest thing in the world to kill an elk with a bow? And maybe that's kind of how you and your son like got into hunting. Like, there's just something like inside of most men that's like, I want to go on an adventure and I want to do something manly. And so that's what got me into hunting.
I think that there is an innate urge for men to go outside, and there's that primal desire to be able to provide. And
Yes.
the thought of going and stalking this like magnificent animal and getting close enough to take it with the bow, which, and I've said this multiple times, when I started hunting, I started with the bow, and I said I'm not going to do any other type of hunting until I take an elk. So I think there is 100% correlation to just, I don't know, you can call it testosterone, you can call it whatever you want to, but just we are, for many men, there's a call to the wild that just you get outdoors, you get outside, and you just feel rejuvenated and
Mm-hmm.
and just reinvigorated. Even though a lot of, like, for me, I've been out for the past 4 years hunting, I've yet to take an animal. But man, I
Yeah.
come back with some absolutely incredible experiences, and I just am rejuvenated, even though I didn't take anything yet. But it's coming. But yeah, so yeah, and I apologize. I have a tendency of interjecting my thoughts there, but yes, I agree with you 100% that there is something that just calls people to get outdoors.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And you can butt in at any time because I'm long winded. And so I might need you to do that. But yeah, like there's I was reading a book the other day and this guy was talking about how, I mean, I don't know, everybody's got different views, but it's at least food for thought. Like how when God made man, if you believe that, um, Adam was made outside of the Garden of Eden, and he was made in the wild. And then God took Adam and he put him in the garden. And there's like, I think that there's something to that because he says to Adam right after he puts him in the garden, he says, I want you to take care of this and I want you to keep it. And it's like this idea that one, we're made in the wild, but two, like there's something in us that wants to, like, we're made to go into places and have it be our domain, and I think
Well,
that's what is appealing to wilderness is like when we go out there to hunt, um we're, like when you're walking down the trail, you're kicking and sticks away to make the trail better. And you're looking at animals and you're going, you know what, like I'm going to provide for my family, and you're imposing your will on the wilderness. And I think that's there's got to be something there, maybe, I don't know.
well, I think, just to your point, when you look at this world that God created, there's more wild than there is like the metro areas. We're all congregated for the most part, in highly concentrated areas, and they talk about all the time how little land is left to develop in certain areas, and I'm like, you guys are nuts, man. So I think God definitely had a plan for us to spend some time in the great outdoors.
Yeah, and Lord knows I need it, man. Like when I build houses for a living right now, and when I'm building this house, I'm looking around and there's like every stud that I see, like I have touched. And it can give us like that false notion that I'm in control of what's around me. And like you go to New York and everything you look at is manicured by man. Like even Central Park, they manicure it to make it look natural, but it's everything you look at, buildings, concrete, cars, it's all touched by man. And we can think that we're in control of our lives, but then you go outside and you're in the mountains and a storm could roll over, a grizzly could pop up because we have those here in Wyoming. And like you realize, man, I'm not in control. It makes you feel small. but anyway, so when when so I talked to that guy when I started to like get this
Desire.
desire
Sure.
to hunt, and I was like, will you teach me? And so he said absolutely, and he kind of took me under his wing. And I was like you, I was like, my goal is to do it with a bow. I don't really know much about rifles or archery, but for some reason that was appealing to me. Just the quiet, the sneaking, the putting a stick through a giant animal that's just beautiful. Anyways, and I didn't get my first elk until my 6th year. And hopefully it won't be that long for you, maybe next year. But my 4th year, I arrowed a bull and lost it. In my 5th year, I arrowed a bull and lost it, and felt like I did everything right. Obviously, it didn't go the way I wanted to, and I had to work through a lot of that, anyways. But that's kind of how I got into hunting, and then that 6th year, the first year of residency in Wyoming, is when I killed my first bull, and have just continually fallen in love with this art, I guess.
What's been the most rewarding part of your journey into hunting?
Oh man, I think for me, it's like there's something in me that wants to know like what I'm capable of, and like taking animals is great, but the small things like going into grizzly country and sleeping on the ground by yourself or something like that, which I don't recommend. but like little small victories like that where I conquer like a fear, like that's what gets me excited is the adventure of it. And so like I would have to say that is so rewarding when I step back and I look back and I go, wow, like um I've changed as a person. um like I go, wow, like when I first started hunting, I was so desperate to have success. And then I realized that like, oh, like I've grown because I passed an animal this year, and I didn't need to try to, I like this year, I didn't really hunt too much for myself. I was helping other people, and I would never have done that the first 6-7 years because I was so desperate to kill an animal myself and harvest one. And so like, it's like, wow, I've grown. So I love how it changes me. I love how it makes me more disciplined. Um, I love how it gives me a grit. And so those life lessons, I would say, are the most rewarding for sure. And then on top of all that, dude, it's just so fun to feed other people and feed my family. So it's been great.
That's exciting. Yeah, it's fun to be able to start to give back. I mean, I've got some friends that have started getting interested in hunting and that now, and we take them out and I'm shooting the bows with them, and I have like a little bit of knowledge. When it comes to shooting the bow, I've gotten pretty good, and I'm helping people get accuracy there. But as they're like, well, now how do we go get an animal? And I'm like, bro, I'll tell you when I figure it out, man. But that's cool that you're there, that you're able to go out and help other people have success, like in the field, and be able to put meat in their freezers and food on the table for their families. And I think that's super cool. So
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Hey, go ahead.
Go. No, all you.
I was just going to say, one of the other things that we had been talking a little bit about offline is kind of now where you're out helping people. I know you're doing some like hunting, photography, and videos. Now, tell me, you've got a pretty interesting story about how that came back kind of into your life, at least the photography and video side of things. Do you mind sharing that story with our audience?
Absolutely. So I when I was in high school, I started falling in love with photography, and I got a camera, and I started doing just a lot of like, yeah, outdoor landscapes and stuff, and had a pretty successful little Instagram account with that probably like 10, 12 years ago. And before I ever started hunting, and I enjoyed it. But when my God started to really change my life, again, before I started hunting, I felt like there was part of me that was doing the photography stuff just to say, just so that people would look at me and go, wow, he's special, he's talented. And I, the Instagram culture, how it is, where you want people to just think you're something special. And I felt like the Lord wanted me to get rid of my camera and give it away. And so I did. And uh, deleted that Instagram account. And
It wasn't a small following either.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't small. It wasn't massive. I think I
What
had
I'm
like,
saying is, but it makes it that's like a big sacrifice to walk away from something that you spent some time building and cultivating.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I put a lot into that, and it definitely was a sacrifice. And anyways, so when I started hunting, maybe 10 years after I had given that camera away, in my mind, like I was thinking about how hunting was shaping me as a man. And I just felt like, wow, I wish there was a way I had a camera and I could capture things and help other young men like see how being in the wilderness can shape you. And I thought, man, it'd be great if I still had a camera to do that. And I remember just kind of dreaming about it. And I said a little prayer. I was like, Lord, like, if you want this to happen, like, you're going to have to drop a camera in my lap, because, like, I'm not going to go make this happen on my own. Like, I want to know that you're behind me in this. And so, dude, after I said that prayer, about 2 weeks later, I was talking to a guy and I was telling him about my dream to kind of use videography and photography to help young men be more manly through outdoor experiences. And he's like, well, send me your Amazon wish list, Sam. What kind of camera do you want? And I was like, wait, are you being for real? And 2 weeks later after that, I had on my doorstep like my dream camera setup. And I was just like, okay, now I got to put my money where my mouth is. And so I started to get back into photography and video. And I've filmed a few hunts. I filmed a mountain goat hunt. A couple years ago, I had somebody take me to Africa to film a Cape buffalo hunt, which was great, really cool experience. And I'm still trying to build something and let it take shape and actually have a foundation for this thing to where I know exactly where I'm headed with it. But I love the art of telling stories, and so that's been so much fun. And I'm hoping to continue to do some hunting films every year. So that's been so fun. And yeah, yeah. I don't know what else to say.
No, that's cool. I think it's interesting. I mean, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I think it's pretty cool that you can just like put it on Him and be like, if you want this to happen, like, let's see what we're gonna go and do. So let me ask you this, Sam. When you say that you like to tell stories, and that, how do you like? What is your process in trying to capture that on a hunt with like video and photography? Like, kind of share with your your mindset, if you would, on that aspect of it.
Yeah, man. Well, I for me, like, I like stories that captivate the heart. And like, I personally, when I'm watching something, of course I love cool kill shots, and I enjoy cool footage, but I want there to be some substance underneath, like that grips the heart, where it's more than just, oh, I killed an animal. It's usually it's deeper than that, right? And so I want to find out, like, the backstory and see what this means and how it's going to grip other people and inspire other people. And so, like, that's what I look for. Like, the other day I went and saw the new Gladiator movie, and I might catch some flack for this. A lot of people like that movie a lot, but what I noticed about it is, like, the hero, he didn't really have a noble cause. Like, he was, at first it was just about vengeance, and then it was kind of like, well, let's make Rome better, and without giving any spoiler alerts. Um, and, like, I'm a stickler on a good story, and I didn't love it as much because I didn't I didn't catch anything that made me go, wow, um, I can get behind that. Like, and so that's what I look for. Um, when I went on that mountain goat hunt, I still haven't finished that film, even though it was 2 years ago, and I'm slacking a little bit. But um, what was cool about that was the guy. It was a miracle that he got that tag. He had, like, less than 1% odds, and uh, and like, for me, I was like, okay, that's something I can pick up on. Um, that other hunters can go, wow, like, there's a chance. I've never even dreamed about a mountain goat hunt, but it's possible. Things like that. And so, yeah.
That's cool. So, okay, I'm going to go back because I also saw the new Gladiator movie. And I want to give you my thoughts on it. And
Please
spoiler alert, if you have seen this movie, you're probably going to want to fast forward a couple minutes. Or if you haven't seen it, fast forward a couple minutes. But I'll give my 2 cents on it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people that don't like the movie.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, Hollywood went woke. And I agree. The message in the story, what we are used to, was sporadic. It was like, it kind of was like all over the place. And yeah, I'm like, this could have been like a 6-part, like 2-hour, like mini series event with like 6 episodes, right? I mean, you could have tied this thing together. But this is just me. I looked at it and I was like, okay, to me, the main message is how corrupt power makes people.
Okay.
And it's like, if you've seen the first one, like the guy, I forget his name in the first one, the guy who owns Maximus, he was kind of a good guy, right?
Sure.
Ish. He had some good qualities and shared good messages that kind of helped move him along. Whereas this one, Denzel, in my opinion, was like garbage. Like he did a good job, but he was not a good guy. And they're like, oh, he's a villain. I'm like, well, no, everyone in this show is villains, because to me, the message that I took from that is how power corrupts. And it was all levels. I mean, it was from the top down, bottom up, and the more power you get, the more corrupt you get, and the more you don't want to lose it. So anyway, my 2 cents on that.
I
when it comes to the story.
I appreciate that perspective for sure.
That's my thoughts on the movie. It was, it to me, power corrupts, and you have to be. I mean, I think back of, like, I've got this statue up here, George Washington, right? Like, George Washington, first president of the United States, like, that dude could have been made king. He didn't want that. He says, nope, I'm going to serve, and I'm going to turn it back over. And you think back during the Roman period and how successful and all the power that they had. Nobody wanted to do that. And again, spoiler alert, that's kind of what happens at the end of Gladiator 2 is like you said, Lucius wants to give it back to the people.
Mm-hmm.
That was a movie, but George Washington was real. That like actually happened. And then there's people that are out there and be like, oh, he had slaves and he was a terrible person. It's like, dude, you have to look at the time. I'm not saying that it was a good thing, but it was what it was. And that guy had the chance to like become king and start this like monarchy, and he didn't do it. And so, yeah, it's the, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's why I'm grateful to have like the Savior to look to, because like, I mean, everything that he did was for us.
Yes.
Like it wasn't for his glory. It was like for us to have a path to return back and live with Heavenly Father. So anyway, that's not to turn this into like
A
theological movie review / theological
Sure.
discussion.
No,
But
I like
yeah,
that. I like that rabbit hole, man. And I do appreciate that they didn't. At first I thought they were gonna kind of glorify Denzel for his cunning, like because the dude was clever in how
oh
he
yeah,
tried to attain power. And I thought, oh man, they're gonna go, hey, look at how cool and special he is. And it didn't end well for him. So I did appreciate that they said no. They made it clear this guy's bad.
there's parallels to like the current political state of our country. I saw a lot of parallels in there. And like I said, you guys want to go see that? I'm sure there's other people that have given much better movie reviews that's what they do. But go see the movie. But I would just say, look at it when you're watching it. Look at it through the lens of like how it parallels with the current political environment in the United States and the country, for that matter. But yeah, I'm glad that they didn't celebrate it with him. But the dude was clever. But I was like, dude's a piece of shit too.
Yeah, they made that clear.
Yeah. Well, and even like the brothers, right? Like that was like a whole other, I don't know, mind thing. I mean, that if you look back at part of what caused the fall of the Roman Empire, it was power hungry, greedy, unrighteous individuals only looking for ways to improve themselves. So anyway, to tie it all back in, we'll try and put a bow around this. I think it's awesome, Sam, that you're taking the time now to go out with people and with youth and help them in a way that maybe some other people can't. I mean, there are, my belief is that God puts people in front of you that maybe you're the best person that can help them move in a certain direction to provide like a sanctuary or a sounding board that maybe they might not be willing to open up to otherwise. So I think it's super cool that you're taking advantage of that opportunity.
Sure, man. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, dude, I just love like how being out in the wilderness just stirs my mind and to wonder. Like I was in Arizona for Thanksgiving, and they're telling me that these saguaro cactus, they take 50 to 70 years to grow one arm. And like some of them have like 20 arms. And I'm like, my mind was just blown. Like, are you kidding me? These things are that old. And so they do have like all these laws about you can't just go cut them down. It's like a protected, I guess, tree, cactus, whatever. And dude, that's what I love about being in the wilderness. And that's what I want to try to share that in some of my videos and media that I create so that we can stop and look at the little things like, dude, like when you're walking down the trail and there's sage and you like tear off a few leaves and like rub them in your fingers and you smell them and it's just like, dude, it smells so good. Like, can you believe that there's this plant that's just abundant out here that just is like perfume? Like it's Like, I love that stuff.
Reminds me of Gladiator, the lavender that she always had.
Yeah, there you go. Full circle, baby.
But yeah, it's the little things like that. I mean, that's the other thing too, is like hunting, there's a lot of quiet time. And
Mhm.
I intentionally leave like my AirPods and all the other stuff behind because like I just want to be present. And I mean, sometimes it's like a little squirrel that you see running up a tree and chirping, and you feel like he's alarming everybody that you're there, and he probably is. But
Mhm.
there's so many little instances like that that just bring gratitude in my mind and appreciation to what what the outdoors is. So that's super cool.
Yeah, yeah, man, and that's something I've grown in as a hunter. Like I think it was this year we were hiking through a spot and covering country and on a mission, and we come across a patch of just like wild huckleberries, and I told my friend, I'm like, dude, the hunting can wait. We got to stop and enjoy these things. And he's like,
Was this in
dude,
Oregon? Because I know like Oregon's like renowned for their huckleberries.
Oregon absolutely has a lot. This was in Wyoming.
Okay.
Um, and my friend's like, dude, Sam, like there's bulls bugling. And I'm like, dude, we can just take a second and enjoy these. Like, put 5 in your mouth right now because we could slow down and enjoy this. And that's what I need because I'm so achievement mindset, and I'm usually not good at that. But like just to slow down, enjoy the process. Um, there's so much little things that we can just slow down, pause, and go, wow, isn't this beautiful? Yeah, you know what I'm
For
saying?
sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Hey, I appreciate your insight and you sharing that with me. I want to ask you a little bit about one of your hunts. Why don't you share a little bit about your recent, was it ram hunt?
Yeah, it was bighorn sheep
Bighorn
last
sheep. Okay.
year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, man, when so this is my second year living in Wyoming, and well, wait, let's see. I moved to Wyoming in 2020, and I got a sheep tag in 2023, and so I had 2 years of residency, and I, dude, I had never even dreamed about sheep hunting. You know, sheep hunting is kind of the holy grail for a lot of experienced hunters, and my eyes were just focused on like elk. I knew I could get an elk tag and I knew I could go do that. And I put in for this sheep tag in Wyoming and with 2 points, and I had a 0.6% chance of drawing. And one morning, this is in May, I wake up to go to work. It's 5 a.m. and I get an email from Wyoming Game and Fish that says, congrats, you got a Wyoming bighorn sheep tag. And my instant reaction was to roll over and shake my wife awake and to tell her, I just got a sheep tag. And she's just like, cool. So I was ecstatic and blown away. I could not believe it. It's almost comical lottery odds, right?
And your
Um,
wife was probably more excited than you were, right?
she was probably excited to get rid of me for a while, but
Yeah.
and she comes from a hunting family. My father-in-law was a bighorn sheep hunting guide for a while, and he's taken 2 of his own, and so she knew what that meant. But so man, I
But
realized
you were jacked.
I was ecstatic, bro. I couldn't believe it. Um, and so I didn't even know where to start and how to prepare. I knew nothing about the animals, and I realized that in Wyoming, where I live, Northwest Wyoming, it's really hard to get around without horses. It's not something where you can, in most places you can't really park your truck on the highway and be in sheep in an hour. You really couldn't do that. And So m- my my biggest realization was, oh boy, I gotta get in the shape of a horse to be able to do this. Like, I gotta get an ultra marathon Cam Hanes fitness here. And so I started like just hiking like crazy, putting packs on, doing some elevation hikes, and getting ready for this sheep hunt.
Turn yourself into a pack mule.
Yes, yes. And I have friends with horses, and we hunt on horses a lot. But I knew that there would probably be weekends where I couldn't count on them, and I needed to be in shape for this. And so uh, I'm doing some scouting. Long story short, I see this ram. My friend and I took some horses back before the season started, and I see this ram, and he's a monster. He's big. And I was like, that's the one I want to go after. And he was actually about 8 to 10 miles from the highway. And so I knew I could probably hunt him on foot if I needed to. So the season rolls around, and the way Wyoming works is you get 2 weeks of archery season, and then it turns into rifle. The last 2 weeks of August is archery only, and then rifle starts on September 1st. And like right before the season started, my wife's grandma passed away. And so I missed the opening weekend because I wanted to be there for that. And my wife Maddie and I were flipping through some of her grandma's journals, and she has this journal from her grandpa. So I think it's my wife's great great grandpa. And he starts this journal by saying, he says, so he says, with malice towards none, I'm going to hew to the line and let the chips fall where they may. I'm going to hew to the line and let the chips fall where they may. And it's this analogy of like an old logger, who's hewing these logs to put them in the place that they're supposed to go, chipping them out, making them take shape. And I had never heard that quote before. Have you ever heard that? Hew to the
I've
line?
heard the quote. I haven't ever looked into the meaning of it, but now I'm
Okay.
interested.
Okay. And I had never heard that quote before. And I just thought to myself, yeah, I think this is going to be the theme of my sheep hunt. Like that, you know what? I understand what my goal is. I know the line that I'm trying to carve out this log to, and which is to kill this amazing ram with a bow. And but I understand that all I can do is my best, and the chips are going to land wherever they do. And so I I go in to sheep country with a friend of mine for 4 days, and I had seen that ram a couple times in this one spot. And we get up there, and we cannot find him. We can't find him at all. And we spent 4 days in there and couldn't find him. And the first night we were in there, we're up on this knife back ridge, and we have a good view, like 180 degrees, where we're seeing sheep, but we're not finding my one ram. And that first night, we were going to set up our tent, but where I live in Wyoming, it gets super windy. And I didn't really know where we were going to camp. And it was getting kind of late in the evening, and we were kind of making our way towards where the water was to fill up our water bottles and camelbacks for the following day. And on the way, we find this cave, which is just, a cave in the wild. Okay. And we were kind of just joking about, wow, we could sleep in this if it ever really, the weather got bad. And we're kind of joking about it. And then we realized, man, maybe we should just sleep in this tonight. And so my friend and I, we start sleeping in this cave, which was kind of cool. And we're not seeing sheep for a couple days. And then on that third day, we see this ram, and he's got a big chip out of his horn, and he's old, and he's solid ram. And my friend was like, Sam, do you want to go after him? And I was like, not really. And we kept seeing him a couple times, and eventually we named him Chip. And I forgot to mention that the ram that I was after, I had named Hugh. I was like, let's name that ram Hugh. And we see this other ram, Chip, and I had not thought about that quote. And we're like thinking about going after him with my bow, and we're like, let's do it. And we start making this sneak. He's way up in this shale rock, like, and it's raining, and we're walking kind of through the bottom of this creek, and we're kind of climbing up these little waterfalls. And I look back at my buddy, and I'm like, we named him Chip, bro. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the quote, we got Hugh and now we got Chip. And I didn't even realize that here we go. I'm like, this is a sign from the Lord that we're going to get this ram. And we got Hugh and Chip. And so we got like 100 yards away, and we have no more cover. And I'm kind of like peeking around these rocks, and he kind of is getting nervous, and he ends up winding us and runs away. And we were just pretty excited. And even though we didn't get it done, and we had to be at work the next day, both he and I, and so we hiked out of there. Well, the following weekend, no one was able to go with me. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go up alone, which maybe isn't the best thing to do in bear country. There's been multiple times where I've seen 12 or 15 grizzlies in one day out here in Wyoming. And I was like, I'm going to go up alone. I feel good about it. I feel like the Lord wouldn't give me this tag if he wasn't behind this. I know that stuff happens, but I felt good on this occasion. And so I go up alone, and I'm sleeping in this cave. And I spent 3 days by myself, didn't find my ram again. And I decided to leave like a lot of my gear in this cave and to hike up over this mountain and check the backside, which is a pretty big hike. And I just brought my sleeping bag and 1 day of food. And it was the night before, or it was the day before the rifle opened. So I get my stuff. I hike up over the top of this mountain, and I didn't even bring my tent. And I had service up there. And so I called a guide that I knew who had seen my ram. And I asked him, I was like, dude, do you know where my ram is at? And he told me he did. And he kind of gave me some hints. And so I'm like, okay, I got an idea. What's that?
What, he wanted to make you work for it still.
Yes. Yeah. He's a really good guy. And he actually had the same tag as me that year, but he got injured. And so I think he was okay with letting me go after this ram, knowing that he wasn't going to be able to hunt. So I sleep on the ground that night, just on this open tundra, and thinking, okay, tomorrow morning, I got an idea where he is. Next morning, I wake up. Sunrise is just gorgeous. There's no wind. And I make my hike, and I peek off the other side of the mountain, and sure enough, my ram is right there. And it's like sun still isn't even up yet, and I'm watching him, and he's with like 6 other rams, and all the other younger rams are just taking their turn, like waiting in line to butt heads with him. And I'm just like watching this happen, just blown away. Oh my word, like it's going to happen today. So I sneak down there, and there's this one finger ridge that I had cover behind. And so I got up to that finger ridge and got behind some rocks, and I peek over, and they're all right there butting heads. And I range them, they're 100 yards away. And so I realized that I just had to wait and see if they worked their way towards me. And you're going to experience this if you haven't already, but like when you're close to an animal, but you can't pull the trigger yet, time goes by so slow. And so I'm just sitting there waiting behind these rocks, and after about 40 minutes, I kind of hear some commotion, and I peek up, and they're all running away. And I realized that they had winded me. And that's the difficulty about bow hunting sheep, is like it's only really a matter of time up in those mountains before the wind kind of just swirls around and they're out of there. And I was pretty desperate. And so I like looked at my phone. I had 3% battery, and I'm like, it was the opening day of rifle. And I was like, I need to get this done today. And so I hiked back up the top of the mountain. I had like 1 bar service, and I called my buddy. I was like, dude, can you bring me a rifle? I'm going to need it. And he's like, it's my anniversary. And he's like, let me talk to my wife. And this is why you need really good hunting buddies. My phone's about to die, and I get a text. He says, I'm on my way. Send me your PIN. So thank you to Vanessa Vashian for letting Dan come and help me out on their anniversary. So I sent him a PIN, and he had a 6-mile hike with like 4,000 feet of elevation gain. And I am able to kind of work myself around these rams. They didn't end up going too far, but there was no way to get to them with a bow. And my phone dies, and I'm just like, I just lay on the side of the mountain where I told my friend I'd meet him, and take a little nap. And he finally gets to me around 5 p.m. And we kind of make a little sneak. My ram is still there with the other 5, and it kind of started to rain a little bit. And my friend, and then it started to get really windy, and my friend's like, Sam, I don't know if you're gonna be able to shoot with this wind. I'm like, well, let's just see if we can get in range and see if the wind will calm down. And we get up to where we wanted to be for a shot, and the rain stops, the sun comes out, and it just gets perfectly still. And I pull up the rangefinder, and I don't shoot rifles all that often. I have enough times to be deadly, but I said to my friend, I'm like, dude, they're 570 yards away. Can we shoot that far? And he's like, yes, Sam, we can. He had a really nice custom rifle with all the dope built into his rangefinder. He's like, we can. I'm like, okay. And so I get down. I'm on this nice flat rock, and we're kind of waiting for them. And I'm trying to pick out my ram, and they're kind of grazing away from me. And he's like, Sam, they're walking away. They're walking away. And I'm like, I know. I which one is he? I couldn't pick him out. And then right then, the one that I thought was him turns broadside, and I'm not even like touching the rifle hardly, and my crosshairs are right on his vitals, and I'm like perfectly set up, and I'm like, I think that's him. And he's like, there's your shot. So I pull the trigger and watch him go down, and I realized, like, I'm a sheep hunter now. Like, we got him. And it was one of the most surreal moments of my life. It happened super fast. And long story short, we get up to my ram, and I had shot the wrong one. And he ended up being old. He was 9.5, which is old for sheep. The average age of sheep that are killed is about 7.5. 9.5's old. And he wasn't as big as the one that I was after. But man, I stepped back. I realized I was a little bummed that I didn't have the patience to wait and make sure I shot the right one. But man, I did my best. I hewed to the line, and the chips fell where they were supposed to. And dude, it was so cool. I never really had even dreamed about sheep hunting, and now that's all I really want to do. I hope next time that I can be disciplined enough to give it an honest effort with my bow. But man, it was Ryan, it was so cool. Like I hope one day like you can do that, and like it's a word to those who haven't really dreamt about that, cuz the points seem astronomical. It takes 26 years to draw, and if you're putting in now, it'll probably take 35, 40 maybe if you ever catch up to the point creep.
So
But
you're saying I'm going to be 75 when I'm out trying to
dude,
chase down.
there's opportunities out there. I'll tell you
I
off
know.
air.
I
But
know.
but
Well, let me
man,
just say this, because I've seen the pictures of that sheep. That's a beautiful sheep, man.
thank
Like
you.
it's like, well done, dude.
Thank you, bro.
Because I think that's incredible, and it's a testament to you, like your willingness to go out and grind and just keep after it, and wanting to get it done, and kudos to Dan for and his wife for letting him come out and be your wingman to get the job done.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Imagine being a friend of somebody and they call you in the morning and say, "Hey, do you want to kill a sheep?" Like it's not very often that you get that opportunity to. So uh
Yeah,
but all props to him.
yeah, no, that's super cool. I think um, that's fun, and that's what I'm discovering. The more and more people I'm talking to, is it seems like everybody's got like a solid buddy that's like there in a pinch. It's like
Yes.
I know the guys down at Wild Arrow, right? Like Cody Namor down there. He's like, all right, him and his son, they both work down there. He's like, if you get a bull down, he's like, call me. We're going to come help you pack it out. And there's just so many guys like that are just like there for you, and it's super cool to kind of see that community, and for me, for the first time, to kind of be a part of it and start sharing some advice with people that are new to it as well, help them along, and then just be able to continue to grow and develop yourself. And that's like the one thing that I think of as like a hunter. Like, you've never mastered it. I mean, you hear stories all the time of like some of like the best hunters in the world, like things go wrong.
Yes.
And I think that's part of why there is that lure to men to go out and start hunting, and even to women. Like, I've seen so many amazing like female hunters that are out there that are just getting it done, and they're grinding just as hard as the men are. And it's fun to see that growth in the sport as well. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think just the difficult nature of it calls to
Hmm.
people. I think of Michael Easter, right? The Comfort Crisis. I don't know if you read
Yes,
that book or not.
I
Like,
have.
he's I love following him. He's got great advice, on how we've become so civilized, and we just don't have to we really don't have to do hard things anymore. And I think
Exactly.
that's why there's that desire for so many, even a lot of guys my age that are in, their mid 40s, that are getting out hunting and doing things for the first time. It's like, I started it last January. I started doing jujitsu, and I come home and I'm like, my ribs are bruised. I'm like 2 weeks into it. My wife's like, "You like this?" I'm like, "I love it." But then I think of the quote from Jocko, where it's like, "You're tired, good,"
Yeah.
and it's like, "Your ribs hurt, good." And I just think that that's what it is. I mean, there's just that desire for men to go out and do tough things, and there's the gratification that comes from, there's the mental, there's the physical, there's the spiritual side of things that come from being able to connect with nature, get out with the wildlife that God created, and to be able to provide for your family and for yourself, and just try and get the job done.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you see the the hype of the cold tub craze. Like like it's at an all-time high. And what does everybody say? Like, if I can get in that ice cold water, to start my day by doing something difficult, and sure, yeah, there's health benefits there too, but I think for most people the idea of it is to do something difficult to start their day, and then and watch how it it shapes them and makes them stronger. um it does something to your brain, and you're so right. Like, we live in an age, I think, where that's why Michael Easter's book is so popular, and communicates something that this world needs, is because we're all in our air conditioning houses. Um, a lot of young people are behind their Xbox every day, and I think that there's a handful of people that are lifting their heads and stepping outside and going, man, like, I want to do something significant. Like I have broad shoulders for a reason. Maybe I should use them. Um, maybe I should test myself. And uh, that's what I love, I think, the most about hunting.
It definitely is a test. I mean, it tests all aspects of your life. And, one of the things, I can't remember who said this quote, but it says, the more you do difficult things, the stronger and more resilient you become.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I just think, as you take on different challenges and push yourself, you build a mental and emotional fortitude that just gives you the confidence to face the things that life brings your way. And I mean, for me, by doing that, one of the things that it's helped me do is, it's like, hey, like, when like the little things that they're annoying pop up, like, you just deal with them differently. Like, it gives you kind of a quiet confidence to just go about your business.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what I love about it.
Yeah, man. Like, dude, I want to be strong. Like, and you don't get strong in a weight room by looking at the weights. You got to apply contrary force to your muscles in order to gain muscle. And it's not just the physical too. Like, you know, like, it works that way with our minds as well. Like, I have friends who say, no, 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 I can't read. I don't read. Like, I wasn't, like, gifted to read. Like, I just don't have that ability. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Like, maybe you do. Maybe it's just difficult for your mind. Maybe you need to strengthen your ability to do that. Maybe if you can learn how to read one page a day and it stretches your mind enough, then you can do two, and then you can do four. And then pretty soon your mind is growing. And, like, I think we can apply that almost everywhere. You know what I'm saying? With our short
Oh,
attention spans,
100%.
yeah, with our short attention spans, it's not easy to read. But because it's so slow, it's like, we're always consuming something, but then you pick up a book and the consumption rate is, like, delayed, because you got to pore over each little word and sift through your brain. What is this person saying? What do they mean? Dude, I think we need a resurgence of that too.
Yeah, I agree. I think, there's so much that comes at us, and society as a whole. I mean, I think of Cam Haines, right? Like, the must be nice, right? Everyone's looking at what he's doing, and it's must be nice. Jordan Harbison, I just did an interview with him last week, and he talked about, like, he went to the SHOT Show with the intent of speaking to two people, and Cam Haines was one of them. And he wasn't sure how he was going to work it out, but he just went there with the intention of finding him. And then the next thing you know, he's standing at this gala, where they're getting, they're doing dinner and fundraiser stuff. And he looks over and Cam's standing right next to him. It's like the memes that you see on Instagram. What are you doing? Stop scrolling. Stop scrolling.
Yeah.
Get out and go do, like, life is going to pass you by. Like I posted this, I heard this quote this morning when I was at the gym, listening to some like motivational podcast stuff. And the quote came across and it said, quit doing small things. You were meant for greatness. And that's, to me, like hunting is one of the things to me that, now, does that mean I'm going to be some great hunter? No. But the things that can happen that you can do to help other individuals and I mean, the connections that I've made since I started this, podcast, they're incredible. Like I've got friends now in the hunting community from all walks of life that I get to sit down and talk to, and I consider friends now. And, I constantly texting and messaging people on Instagram, and we're going back and forth and trying to plan things for next year and figure out ways that we can get together. And like I said, I think at the end of the day, that's what makes this hunting community so strong, is the connections that are developed. So
Absolutely, man.
anyway, Sam, dude, it's been a pleasure. As we wrap up here, is there any last thought you'd like to leave with the folks here?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on blast. You're learning in the hunting sphere how to become a great hunter and a successful hunter. I am too. I think for me, like I kind of mentioned it earlier about learning how to not be so desperate for the outcome. I think, let me just reiterate that. My first 2 elk that I shot at, like I had always said, because it's my first animal, I'm not going to shoot my bow past 40 yards at an elk. Well, the first one I shot at was 65 yards. And I thought I made a good shot. The arrow went where I wanted it to, but he was quartering away, and my arrow I think what happened is it might have weaved a couple ribs and it didn't penetrate very deep. Like I found lung blood, but never recovered my bull. Second time, it was 35 yards, and I shot a little far back and I couldn't find him. And dude, I mean, those are lessons in themselves that I could go into. Then my first big game animal that I killed, 65 yards, it was an antelope. And then my bull that year was 65 yards that I killed. And then the second year, or the second bull that I killed, Ryan, was at 10 yards. And it was then that I kind of realized, oh my word, like it's actually, I don't need to be so desperate. One, there's a lesson in enjoying the process, in setting that standard and being disciplined enough to stick to it. But once I realized that it was possible to get closer, it kind of changed my perspective. And I think that we can be so focused on outcomes that it changes our definition of our identity as a hunter and our success. And I would say the biggest thing I've learned is that when what I need to focus on is the process, and one, enjoying it, and two, knowing that like this is who I am. Like I am going to be a person who slows down and waits for the right moment, who doesn't get impatient. And like I would say those are virtues to strive for, that patience. And dude, I'm learning, and I hope that hopefully that'll impact somebody. I don't know, but But I just really appreciate having you or being on here, man. And thanks for having me. Uh, I love the George Washington side note we got. I just realized I got him in my background right there
Oh,
too.
boom. Yeah.
So that's legit. But dude, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to follow along you and your son. Nothing but success in the future. I'm sure of it, dude. And I'm sure we'll stay connected. So thank you.
For sure. Sam, thanks for being here. Folks, if you want to go give him a follow on Instagram, it's Saved Hunter on IG, right? We'll
Yes,
put
sir.
links in the bio, and yeah, go over, check it out, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Hey, I have a favor to ask. If you would and you enjoy this podcast, head on over to wherever you consume it and leave us a review. It's going to help us get this pumped out to more people that might be interested in hearing podcasts like this. Also, right now, we've got 25% off site-wide. So head on over to huntstealth.com, and for every dollar spent, you get entered into the Ultimate Pheasant Hunt Experience giveaway, which is going on now.